Welcome to the 5th Annual Private Equity and Employee Share Ownership Symposium, sponsored by the Institute for the Study of Employee Ownership and Profit Sharing, located at the School of Management and Labor Relations at Rutgers University. We consider this an event a very important part of the Institute's portfolio of programs. And we are very happy to have pioneered this gathering that uniquely examines the use of private capital to facilitate transactions that create broad-based employee ownership and profit sharing that in turn help the working middle class build wealth. We're also happy to provide a setting for firms doing this work to present case studies to other firms that are interested. Now for my thank yous, I want to thank Citi for several years of funding that helped to establish the conference. And I'd like to thank Pete Stavros and KKR and Ownership Works for their contributions. I'd also like to thank Blue Wolf and Adam Blumenthal for their sponsorship. And also, finally, to thank the private equity firms, the limited partners, and other capital providers, as well as investment banks and commercial banks who have brought their expertise to this symposium. I wish you a great event.
Thanks so much to Dean Adrian Eaton from the Rutgers School of Management and Labor Relations. My name is Christopher Michael. I'm the Managing Director of the Institute for the Study of Employee Ownership and Profit Sharing based at Rutgers. I'd like to welcome everybody to our 5th Annual Private Equity and Employee Share Ownership Symposium, where we look closely at the use of private equity and private credit on transactions involving broad-based employee share ownership and profit sharing. Today, we have a wonderful assortment of case studies by private equity professionals. These case studies are going to run clear through till about 1 p.m. Eastern time. At that point, you'll have an opportunity to join some of the speakers in live Zoom breakout sessions. So if you're interested in a live Zoom breakout portion of the day, that'll come at about 1 p.m. Please note that you do have an opportunity also to engage other participants and in some cases some of the speakers in a chat feature on the right-hand side of the page. I'm so grateful for our sponsors for today's event: KKR, JP Morgan, Stout, Tenor ESOP Partners, and Morgan Lewis, as well as Blue Wolf Capital Partners, have all been extraordinarily generous in supporting today's event and in some cases multiple years of this event. We are in our 5th year of this practitioner series for private equity professionals. This is our 3rd year in a virtual format, and we plan to continue in this virtual format. It would not be possible to hold this event and others like it without the support of sponsors. So thank you so much again to KKR, JP Morgan, Stout, Tenor ESOP Partners, Morgan Lewis, and Blue Wolf Capital Partners. Please do not hesitate, everybody, to be in contact with me personally about proposing your own organization's transactions for us to feature at next year's symposium. I'm easy to reach, and my email is pretty easy to remember. Or you can jot it down. My name is Christopher Michael, and my email address is christopher.michael@rutgers.edu. Please feel free to propose transactions that your firm has been involved in anytime over the last handful of years involving broad-based employee share ownership, broad-based stock options, broad-based profit sharing, and also please do contact me or feel free to contact me about sponsorship opportunities. I don't think it would be fair to proceed without acknowledging the immense work and contributions of distinguished professors Joseph Blasi and Douglas Cruz, decades of work, not only scholarship in the field of employee ownership and profit sharing, but also in building this institute, which is hosting today's event. For those of you who are not aware, although this is the 5th year of this practitioner event on private equity, the Institute has been running a twice yearly fellowship meetings featuring some of the most important cutting edge research on employee ownership and profit sharing with a global group of fellows. And this is a group of fellows organized entirely by the Rutgers Institute. And I want to make sure that everybody's aware that although we have this practitioner part of the Institute's work, we also have academic research at the core of what the Institute does. And our virtual and global group of fellows is really, that's really the core of the Institute and its functions. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the stage. It's an honor to hand over the stage to Lauren Rogers. He is the executive director of the National Center for Employee Ownership, and he's going to share a short address. After that, the sessions will commence straight away and will carry us through till about 1 p.m. again, as I said. And please do remember that if you are interested in live breakout Zoom sessions, those links will become live and available at about 1 p.m. today. Hope everybody enjoys the symposium. Thanks again so much to our sponsors, KKR, JP Morgan, Stout, Kenner ESOP Partners, Morgan Lewis, and Blue Wolf Capital Partners. Enjoy, everybody.
Hello, thank you, Chris, for that warm introduction, and what a pleasure to be speaking with this group today. I'm really impressed and looking forward to hearing the speakers who are filling out the rest of this conference. I'll be brief. You know the research, or at least the research highlights. You know that employee ownership makes companies more successful, that it creates wealth for families and households that otherwise wouldn't have that wealth, including many who are typically excluded from wealth generation in this country. The non college educated, people of color, single mothers, all sorts of demographic groups are demonstrated to benefit from employee ownership. Research makes the case for private capital's role in promoting employee ownership. And that role could be a bunch of different things. It could be mezzanine financing to help create a new ESOP. It could be any kind of financing to support the creation of an employee ownership trust. It could also be growth capital. Many of our member companies are growing vociferously. It could be capital for to fund the repurchase obligation. I believe that John Kober is going to be speaking about that later in this conference. It could also be creating ESOP transactions or employee ownership transactions that have an explicit social benefit. And I think John Schell is going to dig more into that. But underlying all of these benefits, all this case for private capital's role in employee ownership, is the unimpeachable research on the impact of employee ownership. And that's largely thanks to Rutgers. So it's incredibly appropriate to have this conference here hosted by Rutgers, and tip of the hat to them. I'll also immodestly claim a role for the National Center for Employee Ownership in creating that research, and many others have as well. At this point, the research is unimpeachable. We're also here to talk about the new model for employee ownership in conjunction with private equity. And it's exciting to see Pete Stavros here to talk about ownership works and how that's progressing. I don't see how anyone can be unpersuaded about the value of this model after seeing the videos of employees' reactions to what an ownership work style model means for them. Those stories are great, but they don't take away the need for research on this private equity employee ownership model, and research that should be of equal credibility to what currently exists for ESOPs. I have three predictions about what that research will find. First, I think that research will find that it works, that this private equity employee ownership model benefits companies and benefits employees. But second prediction, I think it will only work if there's a significant enough financial stake for employees. Employee ownership is not a yes no question. It only changes companies and employee behaviors if the dollar amount is enough to make a difference in people's life decisions. Third prediction, I think the research will find that engagement matters, that employee ownership works if people feel agency, if employees know they contribute to the success of the business and that they share in that success. I don't need to tell investors like you that there's a level of distrust that's pervasive in our economy about any business ownership transition. My closing advice to anyone considering the use of private capital to support employee ownership is this: lean on the existing employee ownership community. It's full not only of research, but of conferences, books, ready to use resources, and most importantly, reality tested ideas and earnest people who are willing to share those ideas. They will tell you that the key to resolving distrust among the workforce is to first show that you trust them in the systems that you design in the employee ownership companies you create. So I'd urge you to take a chance on the workforces of companies. You may find, as so many of our member companies have found, that people will rise to your expectations of them. I believe, as NCEO founder Corey Rosen has argued so persuasively in his new book with John Case, that employee ownership can be part of the solution for our current high levels of social distrust. As you think about what role you want to have in supporting employee ownership, I encourage you to think both boldly and optimistically about its potential to change not only our companies, but our country.